What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is a requested video, and this might be one of the most debated topics in the NBA in basketball in the past 40 something years. And that is, who is the better player between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird? But in particular, this video, the question is, who had the better peak, Magic Johnson or Larry Bird? Now, to answer the first question, I believe that Magic Johnson had a better career, um, won more championships, had a longer peak. Um, I think with Magic, there was a little bit more consistency, especially in the postseason compared to Larry. Larry was phenomenal. Larry did have some poor postseason performances. And Magic and the Lakers won the overall uh, season series, and I guess what you call it, playoff series against Larry. This I think he won the season series. I know he won the playoff series. So those to me give Magic a little bit of an edge if you're talking about career, right? But if you're talking about peak, I give the slight edge to Larry Bird. To me, Larry Bird's peak probably, oh, 1980, 1983 to 1988, I would say is his peak. Of course, he won three league MVPs in a row, 1984, 85, 86. And as I said before, Larry Bird had a lot of competition at that three position back in the 80s. A lot of competition. I mean, you got Larry, you got Julius Erving, you got Bernard King, you got Adrian Dantley, you got James Worthy, you got Dominique Wilkins. I mean, just that alone trumps anything that LeBron had to deal with on a consistent basis at that position. Not to mention, other players. You got Greg Ballard with the Bullets at the time. You got Mark Aguirre. You got some other guys I just don't off the top of my head right now, but you got a bunch of other guys at that position in the 1980s. Larry was the better shooter. Larry was a better free throw shooter, although Magic was a good one. It became a great one. Larry was a better free throw shooter. Larry was the better defender, although, none of them were known, neither one of them were known as great one-on-one defenders. But Larry was a better defender. Now, I understand Magic led league in steals twice. That's another indication as to how steals aren't necessarily a stat that necessitates you being a great one-on-one defender. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, I would argue earlier in Magic's career, when he led the league in steals, he was actually, at best, an below average defender, slightly below average. Then I would say as his career progressed, he became slightly above average. Didn't gamble as much. Larry was never a great one-on-one defender, though he could hold his own. Larry was best as a help defender. Larry was a better rebounder. Magic had the advantage, I would say, obviously, with passing and playmaking and facilitating, though Larry Bird was great at that as well. I think I said rebounding, right? Larry was a great, obviously, although Magic came into his own in this category as well. Larry was the better clutch performer. In fact, he's one of the great clutch performers in the history of the game. Larry was the better off-ball player too. Played a lot better off the ball. Magic also, look, Magic also benefited from playing in the limelight of LA. Magic benefited from having that Madison Avenue, you know, mystique and that effervescent personality of his. He was a charmer. That helped a lot. Bird was not, especially earlier in his career, Bird was not a likable person. Not saying that he was a bad guy, but he just didn't have a great personality, you know? Um, as his career progressed, he got a little bit better with that, dealing with the media. But 79 to 84, Bird was not great with the media. And he came across as cold, aloof, ornery. But his game spoke for itself, you know? And not only was Larry Bird, I would say, a better clutch performer than Magic, and that's not saying that Magic wasn't good. People sometimes take when you say somebody's better at something as meaning that the other guy sucked, but it's not. These are both tremendous players. And Magic became a great clutch performer, but Bird had more clutch moments, and Bird could dominate a game more so from an offensive standpoint at times than Magic. You know what I'm saying? Um, although Magic was the slightly more efficient player. A lot of it had to do with the fact that, you know what I'm saying, Magic did not take as many threes, obviously, especially before 87 or 88. He just didn't take a lot of threes. A lot of his game was inside. A lot of his buckets came in fast break situations, especially earlier on in his career. Magic did improve as a mid-range shooter, but Bird was just one of the great mid-range shooters of his era, perhaps the premier shooter of his era. Um, and I would also argue that during Larry Bird's prime, which I would say is 83 to 88, you look at that prime in that 5-year window, 3 NBA championships, not 3 NBA championships, 3 Finals MVPs, 2 NBA championships, 2 Finals MVPs. I believe during that 3-year window, he also won 3 consecutive 3-point contest championships. And I'll do a little research right quick. Between 1983 and 1988, each year he was an NBA All-Star. He was all NBA first team each year. And in 87, 88, he was had consecutive years of a 50, 40, 90 player. He was the AP Athlete of the Year in 1986. And matter of fact, I want to do a little bit of more research on something. Between 1983 and 1988, I can pull these numbers up. In that 5-year window, Bird played in 391 games, twice playing 80 games or more. And in that span, he averaged 27.3 points, 9.8 rebounds, 6.8 assists, 1.8 steals, nearly 1 block per game, on 51.2% shooting, 40% from downtown, and 90% from the line. You look at those numbers, they are very LeBron-esque. very LeBron-esque, with better efficiency, greater outside shooting, much better, far better free throw shooter, basically 90% from the line, and averaged 2 offensive rebounds per night, nearly 10 rebounds per night, nearly 7 assists per night, nearly 2 steals per night, nearly 1 block per night, making better than 50% from the floor, 40% from downtown, 90% from the line. And what makes it also amazing is that he played with DJ during that time period. Dennis Johnson, who was putting up what? Probably like 13 and 7. Let me see. During DJ's Boston career, he averaged 12.6 points, 6.4 assists. Yeah, so he didn't always have the ball in his hands at every moment, like you know who had his numbers. So Bird was getting this playing with 3 other Hall of Famers on that floor, and Dennis Johnson, Robert Parrish, and Kevin McHale. Earlier on, Nate Archibald. So he had to share the basketball, especially with Dennis Johnson, right? And Dennis Johnson didn't shoot the ball much, but as far as just having the basketball, Bird was playing off ball more. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is he wasn't just having the ball in his hand, he ready to just pad his numbers every night. Larry Bird was phenomenal, man. If he was playing in today's era, I'm certain in his prime he would have averaged 30. I think he would have averaged a triple double, just about. I think he would have been putting up Jokic numbers easy, but with even better outside consistency, a better defender, close to or just about what Jokic averaged with rebounds, maybe more around 10 or 11, or 8 or 9 assists, 30 plus points. And much better conditioning than Jokic. A little bit more athletic. I mean, the fact that people tend to think of Larry Bird as a guy walking around like his feet was in cement is very, very misleading. Like, for instance, Bird before the back injuries had a vertical leap of about 28 inches, right? Now, that's not anything phenomenal, but people don't tend to think of Magic Johnson as a guy, you know what I'm saying, that's slow with his feet stuck in cement, but his vertical leap was about the same, 28, 29 inches. Karl Malone's vertical leap, I think, was probably around 30 inches. So what I'm getting at is this notion that Bird was this completely unathletic dude. Bill Laimbeer couldn't jump over a telephone booth. Bird was a much better athlete than Bill Laimbeer. You know what I'm saying? And then when you think about it, 2 of the most unathletic players in the league, Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic, are 2 of the most dominant players in the game. So this notion that if you're unathletic, then you're just going to be destined to struggle, that's bullshit, man. But anyway, yeah, I would argue that Larry Bird had the greater prime, man. You could argue Magic's prime was a little bit longer, obviously, although his career was derailed due to the acquisition of the HIV virus. But Magic's prime, I would say 80, 85 to 92, 91, I said, 85 to 91. Some people might argue 85 to 90. You could argue that maybe there's a little bit of slippage in 90, 91, but I don't really see that. You know, but I would go with Larry Bird on this one, in my opinion. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.